Let's take you back to Gold Coast for an update from the Commonwealth Games on Saturday night. Botswana won the men's 4x400 meters final at the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games. On the final day of track events, Isaac Makwala that is, was unstoppable for Botswana, crossing the line fastest and leading his teammates to a one-of-a-kind celebration. It was his trademark press-up celebration with backup as his teammates joined in. The Bahamas came in second with Jamaica third. Meanwhile, in the women's event, Jamaica atoned for missing out in the 100, 200 and 4x100 meter relays with gold. Nigeria and Botswana rounded off the podium spots. Right now, for more on this, let's now go live to Lagos, Nigeria, where I'm joined by Kunle Solaja. He is a sports analyst and the editor-in-chief of the online publication Sports Village Square. Kunle, let's talk about Akani Simbine. Are we now seeing a revolution in the 100 meters race after Usain Bolt's retirement?
Yeah, of course, it's a revolution. Naturally, one would have thought that with the retirement of Usain Bolt, Johan Blake will be a natural successor. But Akani has shown that Africa can still launch itself into a global scene in athletics. I'm very thrilled to see what Akani has done. In the past, we had thought Namibia's Frankie Frederick will be the one to really make it in the athletics world. But all the time, he was always in the shadows of Carl Lewis and co. But now that Akani has come, I think Africa is now set to take its rightful place when it comes to the 100 meters race.
Now, Kunle, of course, Uganda seemed to have sent a strong message with victory, of course, in the men and women's 10,000 meters. Should Kenya and Ethiopia be worried?
Of course, they should. If you consider the fact that Joshua Chepgai alone won 2 gold medals in an area that is almost an exclusive preserve for Ethiopia and Kenya, you see an Uganda coming up, and I think it's good for athletics world, it's good for athletics in Africa. Now, we have more competition, and the Kenyans and the Ethiopians will now know that, oh, the long-distance races are no longer the exclusive preserve. We now have a Uganda coming up, because if the first one was a fluke, the second one has confirmed that he has really come to dominate the long-distance races, not just in Africa, not just in the Commonwealth, but I'm sure he has his eyes in the next Olympic Games.
And finally, Kunle, of course, once again, we're seeing this disappointing scenario where African professional athletes travel for big championships and then disappear. What exactly is the problem? Do we not have the facilities back home?
Well, the problem with athletes, and not just the athletes alone, but probably it goes across all sports, is that Africa still lacks the technique to excel in sports. Africa still lacks in techniques of funding sports. Africa still lacks in the technique of having good facilities. For instance now, at every Olympic year, that's when you see governments in Africa preparing their athletes. And in those, in that kind of funding, you cannot produce a champion. A world champion, an Olympic champion is not produced overnight. An Olympic champion emerges over a period of 4 years at most. Because, for instance, those who are going to excel at 2022, at 2020 Olympics are almost already known, because they've already, the only thing we cannot know is the complexion of their medals. But we know those who are going to excel. And in Africa here, we wait till the last minute. That's when, because budgetary planning in Africa is always yearly. And most of the sports organizations are tied to the apron of government, who budget for, whose budgets run from the beginning of the year to the end. We don't have long-term planning. And as long as you don't have long-term planning, you have limited chances of excelling in sports. For instance now, let's take Nigeria for instance. Those who are going to compete in 2020 Olympics, they are not known now. It is by 2019 or even in 2020 that funds will now be released for their training. And in that wise, whatever you give to them, it will just be like pocket money, because, or just money just given to them for that period, because they as for training, they have already missed it. And for that, that's why only the few African athletes who train abroad always excel when it comes to global events. And sadly, this trend might still continue until there's a revolution where we have an African country who will decide to take sports the way it's supposed to be.
All right, Kunle, thank you very much for your insight. Hopefully, indeed, we do see less of such headlines from African teams and more of African teams on the podium. That was Kunle Solaja speaking to us live there from Lagos. He's the editor-in-chief of the Sports Village Square and a sports analyst. Well,